Okay, I think we're in business now.
Great.
Sorry, that we had a little bit of tech problems there, but we're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming back for another live stream where we are going to create a character and a story from complete scratch. We have a very excellent guest who I'm very excited to work with this evening. His name is Josh Flaum, and he is a comedy writer for television, and amongst other things. I would imagine that you've done writing for other stuff besides TV.
Yes. I've written for, video games. I have done the weirdest thing I did, I wrote for a year on this show called Live from the Eighth Dimension, which was a half scripted, half improvised TV show. Well, it was set up like a TV show, but it was all done in virtual reality. So everything was in a concrete room. None of us were looking at each other. We were just in our helmets. So I wrote on that show. I mean, I've done all sorts of weird stuff. I also created a show called Written by a Kid, which I didn't do any writing in, but the idea was to get kids aged 4 to 7 to make up a story on the spot, and then we hand that story over to professional directors and animators. And the mandate was they had to use what the kids said word for word. So
that's incredible. Wow. Yeah. And with the results just amazing.
I think the results were my finest work. If that's weird, it was. They didn't do any. I didn't do anything other than let them go, and we got some really truly amazing stories out of them.
That is so fun. So what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm continuing to sort of write these interactive video games. I am also working with Riot Games on a couple of projects. And they create League of Legends, and I do sort of like a lot of their comedy content that's ancillary to the video game.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really wanted to ask you before we really start is, in your mind, what is the big difference between writing just like straight drama and writing comedy?
You know, I haven't really done much drama, but what I can say is with comedy, you have to give yourself license to take big risks in terms of what the characters say and how they act. It's, with the straight drama, and I'm a fan of straight drama, but it does seem like they have to deal with each other's emotional content. And oftentimes you could ignore the things that are supposed to happen in comedy and go with the stuff that could never possibly happen. Because you want to, I think part of comedy is surprise. So you want to surprise the viewer as much as possible.
That's fun. Do you like to write by yourself, or do you like to collaborate with others?
I do write with myself. I also have a number of creative partners I've worked with in the past and work with now. And I have to say, I prefer writing with a partner. I think, especially with comedy, it's more collaborative, and two brains are better than one. You can always find something better with another person in the room.
That is very cool. I mean, I definitely, when I was doing theater, part of it was really the social aspect of it, like the connectivity between people. I think one of the reasons why I changed course in college away from visual art was the solitude drove me crazy. Just like being there at the canvas and just being there by myself with my singular piece really started to bug me out. I couldn't really stand it. And so that's why doing theater was so attractive to me, because it was the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, I think collaboration is more rewarding overall. I do envy writers who can sit and write with themselves, just by themselves constantly. They can just sit and write for 8 hours without the sort of input from another person. But at the same time, I think I would miss writing with a person. One of my writing partners I've known since 1995. We've worked together that long. We've optioned a couple of scripts.
Fun.
He co-created Written by a Kid with me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think any of that would have happened on my own, especially when I first started out.
Awesome. And so you specifically asked to do sci-fi comedy.
Yes.
Which is going to be so fun. I actually talked to someone I work really closely with on this card deck project, had said to me recently, her name is Deanna Burke, and she's awesome. And she said, what about doing like a comedy expansion? And I love the idea, but then I was like, honestly, I think that the prompts are the same. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just what you do with them that makes it the difference between like, drama or thriller or comedy. So I'm really excited to see what happens with these prompts tonight when we really like take them to an extreme place for like fun and laughs.
Sounds good to me.
Was there a specific reason why you picked sci-fi? Like, are you a fan of certain sci-fi comedies?
I love sci-fi, but I also, some of my favorite movies could be, I would say, labeled as sci-fi comedy. Galaxy Quest or Ghostbusters even.
Nice, that's great. Okay.
I like comedy with an element of the paranormal, with something other than just a straight, buddy comedy, road comedy. I like those too. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm not going to crap on those, but I do love an added element, something that allows me to, I think what it is when I watch sci-fi comedy, I'm less likely to dissect it.
Okay, and you just like get on the bus and go for the ride.
Just let go and watch the thing that you paid to watch.
That's fun. Okay, cool. So for anybody that hasn't seen one of these before, I created this 8-category system based on the character's mind. 4 of the categories are what I call universal categories. I call them the core categories. They apply to any kind of character, no matter what the genre is. And then the other 4 categories are very specific to the genre. And so we're going to start with, I don't always start this way, but usually seem to. Your first category, actually, let me change the view now so that we can actually take a look at the cards. There we have it.
All right.
So your first category is occupations. This is one of the categories that is very specific to the genre.
Okay.
And your first one is celebrity racing pilot.
Okay.
Or cybernetics specialist. Or forger. Or or officer of alien affairs, and one for good luck, and that is ship's communications officer.
Okay.
So you had a question. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just I thought you had stopped at 3, and I'm glad that there were 5. That's
yes, we'll do 4, usually 4 or 5.
Okay, great. And so now, just because I'm also one of those people who have never seen this before, I pick one of these and we run with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let's go with Officer of Alien Affairs.
Oh, fun. Okay. And then the next category is one of those core categories, and it is their motivation.
Okay.
What is the thing that they want the most over the course of the story? Your first option is to save the world, or to recover something that was lost, or to claim what is owed them, or to prove their detractors wrong.
All right. I like the stakes of to save the world.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that. That to me is really big, high stakes, and can lead to some fun stuff.
Got it. I'm writing this down on our whiteboard.
Okay.
That's awesome. So next, we're going to take a look at their strengths and flaws.
Okay.
And these cards will kind of influence the kinds of choices that they make along the way. First, there are their strengths, and your first one is charismatic. They could be centered, which means they possess a deep inner sense of calm and readiness, and they're not easily destabilized. They are potentially inquisitive. They possess a hunger for knowledge and exploration. or they are persuasive. They're able to make compelling arguments.
Let's go with centered, I think.
Okay. Next is their flaws, which I tend to, depending on whether you're writing a hero or a villain, I've realized that the flaws actually could be considered strengths, depending on who you are. But I tend to think of the flaws as the things that potentially get in their way or sabotage their pursuits and really keep them from getting to their goals. Your first one is skeptical, constantly assuming an attitude of disbelief. Or megalomaniacal, is obsessed with their lust for power. Overconfident, they overestimate their proficiency and take unnecessary risks. Or they are contrary, argumentative and prone to disagree.
You know, I'm going to go with overconfident, because overconfidence is one of the core tenets of any good comedic character.
Outstanding. Okay.
Especially somebody who thinks they can save the world is, you know.
So yeah, you're definitely not shy at that point. So the next category is called given circumstances, and you should probably be pretty familiar with the idea of what that might be. It is a detail of their life that is either like a strength or a restriction, something either societal, or like about the place or the time period in which they live. It could be a special skill that they have. It could be a phobia that they have or a medical issue. It could be something to do with like their finances or their family or their relationships. So your first one is they are an avid collector of some kind. They have excellent reflexes. They are in financially dire circumstances. So let me do this. Or they sleepwalk.
Wow. My instinct is to go with sleepwalking, only because I don't know where I would possibly go with that as of right now. But I think I'm actually going to go with avid collector of some kind.
Yes, I have no idea where that's going to go.
Yeah,
I'm really, really interested to see what happens with that. So we have 3 more categories left.
Okay,
and they are all very much the most kind of plot and story heavy. They're probably going to give us a lot of the parameters of our world and what's happening. The first one is secrets, something that our character is keeping to themselves.
Okay.
They obtained a star chart to a hidden smuggler's moon, said to store the valuable treasures from a fabled space pirate. They were responsible for the death of the entire crew of the last ship they served aboard. They know that they have an explosive charge implanted inside them, but they have no idea what the trigger is or what the timer is set to. They are from an alternate universe and claim that this one is the dystopian version of the one they're from.
Okay.
And I gave you a 5th one. Is having a romantic relationship with an android or synthetic who claims to have evolved beyond their programming.
Well, let's go with that one. Number 5.
All right. And let me just say that a lot of this stuff, especially these next 3 that we do, with this one and the next 2, they're not totally off limits. You know, it's not like the creativity cops are not going to come arrest you if you decide you want more than one. So if you're like, oh, I kind of want the one about the bomb inside them, but I also want them dating an android. So don't feel shy about that, especially if like you really feel like it's calling to you.
Gotcha.
Your next category is formative events, which is something that happened to them in the past that had a really outsized effect on who they are in the present. Your first option is they survived a lightning strike. Or their father was a powerful, stern man who taught them winning was everything and to crush their enemies at all costs. Or was a member of a landing party to a new world famous for having was a member of a landing party to a new world famous for having gone horrendously awry. Lastly, used to be an enlisted member of the galaxy's oppressive authoritarian army.
All right, let's go with their father was a powerful, stern man who taught them winning was everything and to crush their enemies at all costs.
Okay. All right, last category. And that is inciting incidents, which is really meant to be the what's just happened or what is happening right now that is setting our character on the journey of their story.
Okay.
Okay. This one implies a lot. Learns that the members of their original teen super team are being murdered one by one.
Okay.
Needs to quickly assemble a flight crew for a small ship for an illegal off-world mission. Or an attempt to preserve a biological culture of a rare alien in a sealed lab has begun to go awry.
Right.
Or they're attending a posh secret auction for high-value illegal items, people, and alien beings for sale.
Well, as a collector, I think I'd have to go with that one.
Okay. All
They're
right.
attending a posh secret auction. And I apologize. I just got 2 new kittens. They're like 8 weeks old, but they are scratching to get in. I'm just going to open the door. That's all.
Yep.
All right. Come on.
And I'm back.
So, all right. There we go. I'm back.
Outstanding. What did you name your cats, by the way?
Billy and Betty.
I love animals with human names. It's the best.
Yeah. We had a cat that just passed away, but her name was Cat Benatar.
Very excellent.
It's the name that made me fall in love with my wife.
Oh, I see. So Deanna is in the chat. She's featured a lot in this video, which is wonderful. But she is asking to see the cats. There you go. She wanted to see the cats.
I knew it. There's this is Betty. Right there. And then
amazing.
Billy is at my feet. Here we go. Come on up. They're sisters, biological sisters.
Oh, right on.
Believe it or not. So there
and now they're both eligible for their SAG card as well.
Yeah. Oh, is this SAG? That's great. I mean, technically I'd be scabbing, but
yeah, totally. Yeah. me too. So there we have it. Okay, we've got our 8 choices. I need to do some quick writing, but based on, let's see, as I put stuff on the board, you tell me how it starts to like come together for you.
Okay.
What did we say their strength was? Where did I put it?
Oh, overconfident. No, wait, no.
Yeah.
Was it overconfidence?
No, that was there was a flaw. Where is there? Oh, here it is.
Centered.
Centered. Thank you. They are centered and overconfident. You know who that reminds me of? Is do you remember Otto in Fish Called Wanda?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like Otto.
The Kevin Kline role.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Avid collector. And then they are having a relationship with an android. And stern father. And then posh auction. Rare things and beings for sale. And again, the goal here is to save the world. Do you think that that's a general motivation or circumstantial motivation? Like, is he in a situation where he needs to save the world, or does he just walk around feeling like he's the guy?
I think it's situational.
Okay.
I think that, you know, even though he is overconfident or she is overconfident, I think that you don't exit the door every day thinking you're going to save the world. I think something has to catalyze that.
Okay.
So that's my thought there.
So again, let's talk about what's connecting with what at this point. How do you see this all coming together? There's our little heart in love with androids.
Starting from what point? Like,
I just want to know. I think I'm starting off by saying, is any of this starting to, like, little tendrils reaching out from between them, starting to connect to each other?
Certainly the fact that they are an avid collector and attending an auction, there's got to be something there that they've been looking for a long time. You know, that's the reason they're there in the first place. There is something, whether it's a being or an object that they crave. It might even be the thing that completes their collection.
So you're saying, okay, that they are an officer of alien affairs. They're not at this auction in sort of like a Ethan Hunt Mission Impossible infiltration kind of role. They're there legitimately because they're there. Like,
it's voluntary. They want to be there.
They want to be there.
It's not a part of a mission. You know, I think the fact that they're an officer of alien affairs is circumstantial. That they have a job, but the thing that they really value is this collection.
Do you think that there's any dissonance between these two things at all, or are they?
Certainly, especially an auction that sells beings, but maybe also illicit objects, might not look good if they're an officer of alien affairs. So this is one of those places they would go, maybe as someone else, you know, not camouflage, but they're under a pseudonym or.
Okay. Do you think that they think they're in a disguise? Do you think they actually are?
I think the disguise would be to not be dressed up as an officer of alien affairs. I think that's really the only thing that's going to keep them from getting caught. Is
okay. So this is high risk, though, right?
It can be, yes. They've done this before, I imagine, but there's always an element of risk. But this character, I think, would do a great deal to finish this collection. Okay, so they've done it before. Do you think that it actually goes as far enough as to be like a compulsion, or like almost like a gambling addiction kind of thing? Oh, yes, cats have the power. He also just came up and grabbed the cord of my headphones. So ask the question again, and I'm sorry.
I want to know if they've done this before, but it is a high risk situation. It's completely at odds with what they do for a living. Do you think that it is actually like a compulsion or like an addiction? Is it gotten to is it gone to a weird place for them where they're like?
I would say, especially if it's like the final piece of their collection, then it would be a compulsion. It's just like they have to have it. They've been doing this their entire lives. You know, it's like when I was a kid, I collected hockey cards and or actually hockey stickers too. And you can see she's got scored. I am so sorry. But we had sticker books that I had to complete, and I would buy these packs of stickers just obsessively to try and complete this book. And there was always one sticker that was really hard to find, and we'd ultimately end up trading for it.
Okay.
But it would take all year, and then I would start again the next year.
Okay, got it. All right. So we've got that level of drive, that collector's level of like, I have got to finish my set of whatever the thing is.
Yes.
Do you feel like is the kind of drive that has them making, well, clearly they're making compromising choices in order to like feed their habit.
Right. I think so. I think, there's something to be said for just an officer who is maybe spending too much money on this thing, whatever it is. I haven't decided, or we haven't talked about it yet, but it could be too much money, or it just could be illegal in certain places. It could be just one of those things that's considered immoral. But I think that their drive is to get that thing, whatever it is.
Okay, I think we should definitely talk about like what the thing is, but the next thing that I'd like to do is to try to go back to our list here and figure out how we might be able to pull in some of the other characters that we have so far. Like we've got this android girlfriend, right? We've got a stern father, and I'm wondering if there's any possibility, do we want to leave the dad in the past, or do we want to make the dad an antagonist in the story?
I think leave the dad in the past, and let's focus on like there can be a chance to bring the father in, but I wouldn't want to make the father a larger character.
Okay. So I feel like what we need to do is create, and maybe it's back in the cards that we've covered already, but like we need to make, he's going to this auction, and now we need either for things to go awry, or for a larger concern to happen at the auction or around the auction, where he's either pulled in two directions, or his his focus is like, I need to go be a cop, or like I need to be an officer of the law, but I still want that thing. You know what I mean? We need to pull him in two directions, I think, because we don't want him to just like go to the auction and have a good time and have that be that. Like I feel like we've got to flip his apple cart somehow.
Great.
And I'm wondering, do you have any ideas that came from the cards that we covered that we could pull from? I'm looking to see what we've got here. Survived a lightning strike, somebody from an alternate universe, the explosive charge in someone's body, like that's a fun one. We've got the relationship, we've got the father. Are you feeling like is any of this appealing to you?
So the lightning strike is interesting to me. It's one of those things where it could be brought in, and this is just an idea, but like, because this person was struck by lightning when they were younger, a child perhaps, they could be getting sent this message, this sort of psychological, or not psychological, but like, it comes to this character in dreams. It's like,
okay,
you have to complete this. I don't know, maybe it was brought on by the lightning strike, something that has affected them mentally.
Okay.
Whether it's supernatural, or if it's just something's wrong with their brain now.
So they're getting visions, or they're getting messages
Sure.
in their dreams, and it somehow relates to the collection that they're amassing.
Yes.
So I don't get the feeling that he's there to actually buy a person or a being.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. But again, being there at an auction where beings are sold, it's unseemly at the very least for an officer of alien affairs, and completely immoral.
But does it bother him, do you think? Is he like, oh, I really hate this part, but I really want that thing? Or is does it not really faze him in that way?
Oh, I think it would faze them for sure.
Okay. So they're definitely like, they're making compromises, choices, and they're uncomfortable. Okay. So the need for the thing overcomes the discomfort around the slavery aspect of it, the sale of the,
at least initially.
All right. Let me just throw something out there. Do you think it's possible that the things that he's collecting could be alien in nature, and that like the assembling of the collection completes almost like a transporter or a beacon, or like a something that the signals or the messages he's getting that are compelling him to complete this collection are coming from somewhere out there?
Absolutely.
You like that? Do you like that idea?
I do like that. I like that idea because that essentially that sort of internal message that is relentless can
Yes.
lead this character to make choices that are here. I'm going to remove the kitten because now she's chewing on wires, but I'll be right back.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, one last look.
The collection.
All right. So that internal message creates the drive, which ultimately, to me, that sort of links with saving the world. You know, perhaps the world needs saving, and the only way to do that is to activate this thing. But I also think that having a message that leads to an auction where beings are being sold can lead to the real conflict, which is that moral conflict. Actually, you know, it's very possible that this character might make the choice to buy a being instead of this object because that being has said something like, please save me, or, you know, it's just a victim of the alien race potentially that is sending him the message in the first place.
Okay. Do you think that the assembling of the collection of things, like, you know, the artifacts or the whatever they are, do you have do they make a picture in your mind? Do they have any sort of like, what shape are they? What are they made of? Like, are they like little Hummels? Are they like, you know, did plates or discs or cubes or any of that? Like, I'm just curious what's in your head.
My first thought was that they were these sort of almost amorphous stones.
Okay. That's already amorphous stone. I don't think you can see that, but there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you remember from Space Ghost, those two little blobs that you used to hang out with?
Absolutely.
For some reason, that is what came to mind. So, okay, my question now is, do you think that the collecting of the objects and the assembling of this collection is a good thing for like humanity or this event, or do you think it's actually like the bad thing?
Yeah,
I
think it's a bad thing. It's a misdirect. So this person might have it in mind that it's a good thing, but she slowly realizes that it might not be the thing that they thought it was.
Okay, I think that that's really fun because the goal, very Ghostbusters in that way, where it's like,
right,
our goal is to like, we want to get the thing, we want to do the thing, and then the doing of the thing actually opens the gateway and makes things way worse than they were.
Exactly.
Do you feel like there's room for the android? Do we feel like this character is a male or a female? Do we have that's sort of like been floating?
I don't know yet, and I don't know that it matters yet. Like having an android lover is it's almost like it's not necessary to define until the details come out. Even if that's the case, they could be fully asexual. That's why they're with the android.
That's why they're with that's awesome. Okay, but I'm wondering, can the android be along as a date? Like,
absolutely.
Okay. So we've got the android, and I'm wondering if maybe the android doesn't have opinions about the buying and selling of these like exotic beings as an exotic being themselves, or they could be like totally cool with it, you know, like it just
so
one of those.
What was the card again? It was an android, but also it claimed to have broken away from its programming. Is that right?
Yes, that it
okay.
That it has evolved beyond its programming.
I mean, as something that's evolved beyond its programming, I think it might have an opinion about this and may have tried to change this character's mind ultimately, initially, but it is there because this, though it has evolved beyond its programming, it still actually in a relationship with this person.
But it couldn't be making the date be maybe not going all that great. Like there could
Correct.
be
Yeah.
tension between the two of them about like the surroundings and everything else that's happening, and our protagonist is just so focused on putting the collection of amorphous rocks together that really that's all they can hear or see. And then they put the collection together, something comes together, some attunement happens, and badness ensues. And so the auction event becomes almost like a staging ground for this. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to. I'd rather hear from you what you feel like than the event is that happens.
Well, it's interesting because, like, if it happens at the auction, to me that might be a little too early.
Okay, all right.
I would love that false victory of like having completed the collection. If I'm going that route, if this character doesn't instead decide to save somebody's life in the auction house, if they are that focused on getting this final object, then I think I would like to get them home with it.
Okay.
You know?
Well, let me ask you, here's one thing, and maybe we can find a way to like bring this back around, but I didn't know I knew this until you said something, and I was like, what about all those like beings for sale? Like I had the idea that somehow he was going to have to like corral them to help. That like, you know, he was perfectly fine with them being bought and sold, but now he like needs their assistance. And they're all like, well, you were, you know, perfectly fine sitting in the audience 5 minutes ago as I was being sold to that, you know, Saudi prince or whatever.
Right.
But now you need something from me, you know. So it could have created this opportunity for there to be this like really kind of like awkward ragtag gang of people that have to suddenly like rise to the occasion. If he gets the thing home, first of all, does you dig that at all? Like, is there any there for you?
No, I think that's something for sure. It's more, the more we talk about this, the more I realize that it's the beings being sold. That's the real mission. You know, it becomes this thing. It might be that the guilt overtakes this character. If they are centered, if they, you know, I do think that they're focused on getting this object, but they make if they're to make a last minute decision to help these beings. I don't know. You tell me what you think. That's just because, and I hear what you're saying. Like if you take it home, then it's harder to, you know, work with the other characters that were at this auction.
But I mean, he could always have to go and like break them out of whatever like holding cell that they're into or whatever. Like I feel like it could go either way.
Okay.
There's something about the compression of the event at the auction where like everything just goes, you know, bonkers, and then it becomes this like they're trapped in this big venue, and there's a lot of sneaking around. But then he could go home, and it develops into what feels almost like a larger mystery, where like he brings it home, weird stuff happens, he and the android, or they and the, you know, he or she and the android lover then are like, oh my God, this is way worse than we thought it was going to be. This is not at all what I had in mind. Now we need that bunch of aliens that are being held, you know, that were at the auction, that are probably like being loaded onto a pallet or something like right now.
Right. I think I hear what you're saying. I actually, then I changed my mind. I would like to keep it at the auction.
Oh, okay. Right.
Just because I think that I'm just starting to feel more of a link to that with the other elements of the cards.
And I feel like you know, there is a lot of more potential for like wacky stuff to go down if this all has to get like put together on the fly, like
right
in the moment. It could just be a little bit more of a train wreck.
Great.
So it could be whatever these collected objects are, when they come together, there is a thing that happens, you know, and it could be suddenly everybody's like possessed and under the alien's control. A doorway could open and all these aliens could come pouring out. It could be those. I thought I had a lot of things, but it turns out I only have those two.
It could be a alien computer that, once all put together, sends out a frequency that takes over the auction house and links into, it's like identity theft. They steal everybody's IDs. But I also like the idea of a portal with aliens coming through. I think, though, that in a world with there's already an officer of alien affairs. There are aliens and humans that work together on a regular basis. It's that would seem like, why couldn't they just fly there?
Okay.
So the other thing it could be is like what was the name of the movie was Contact, and James Woods is like, all we know is that this could just be a something that is essentially a huge bomb that, like, once you put it together, it just blows up the world. Then they don't have to worry about humans anymore.
Yeah.
But again, that's I like the idea of it being a larger, more terrifying danger than just aliens coming through. So maybe like an old god, or
I love it. Wow.
like an old alien god that never should have been resurrected.
It's just got very Lovecraft, which is never a bad thing. Revived or released. And again, Ghostbusters, very Zool.
Yep. And you don't see too much about alien gods.
No, that's great. I think that's really cool. So all of these like amorphous rocks or whatever were some sort of almost like a prison, like a combination lock almost.
Yes. And once they're all brought together, and this person, as confident as they are, decided to bring all of the previous collection to this auction house, which is normally not recommended. But
he was so compelled,
yes,
to do this, and had to see them all together. Do you think that once he puts them all together, he's like released from this spell and he's like, what have I done? Or is he still like, no, I'm really into these. Like, I'm really bummed to see that they've let out Cthulhu, but they still look great together. Where do you think he falls in that spectrum?
I think that, the mission has been fulfilled, and he thought it would be something else. And so it's not that he was compelled to bring them together, but once they're together now, it's more the realization that it was always this sort of trap, and he was just the ligament that brought one event to was the lightning strike all the way to letting the old gun free.
That's amazing. So the lightning strike was at a way to like bring it back. That's amazing. So all the way back from the lightning strike was almost like a purposeful catalyst to this being into. This is the moment where it started, and it goes all the way to putting this collection together.
And this person is essentially a Trojan horse, that an unwitting Trojan horse that is unfortunately the one to release this very powerful and malevolent entity.
That's incredible. I'm so psyched about this. I've got to write that down. That they are a Trojan horse. That's so true. And so now they're at the venue. This old god, comes, I don't know, like floating or like walking out of this portal.
Oozing.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's great. And so now we've got this one officer of the law who's been like who shouldn't have been there in the first place, who's now like, it's all in this person's hands. In this sense, they're like alien. I mean, they're android lover sidekick.
Yes.
So fun. Oh my God. I don't know what I was writing here, but whatever. So what, I mean, I feel like that just like rocketed itself together.
Yeah, no, that felt good. There's a lot of good elements in that.
Do you feel like and then we have the idea of having to enlist. The lightning strike leads to the Trojan horse thing. I want this to actually go over here, and then it becomes about rescue, right? It switches from the mission goes from assembling the collection to then undoing what he did, or like mounting the rescue.
Right, exactly.
Mission becomes the rescue. And do you think that there's anything from the Stern father that he can then call on or draw from to like power him through this? Or is there something from the Stern father that really undoes him and that really inhibits his success?
Well, if I release a malevolent entity, I would feel like a failure. And so perhaps there's something to that, just, in passing that flashback in dealing with the father.
I love that so much. I managed to unplug my headphones. So this is failure, right?
Yes. And maybe that's something that this person, overconfident as they are, maybe that's the reason they're overconfident, is because it's one of the things that was instilled in them by their father, who is just like, fail upwards, do whatever you have to do.
I love that. That like he was like raised by Jared Kushner or something like that. And
yeah, exactly.
Like taught him to be this kind of douchey master of the universe.
Yeah, you don't have to be qualified. You don't have to be excellent. All you have to do is pretend to be qualified and excellent, and that is as good as it gets.
And also, but now he has to be excellent, right? Like he has to go from, like that can really be the journey of the facade of excellence and confidence. He actually has to kind of like in this moment measure up to the moment.
Right.
And then enlists the beings for sale, right? Was that something you felt like we wanted to?
I think you want to enlist them. You want to save them. You want to save them first. I think that if you're really going to like this character, they have to have that moment of like realizing what they've done. Not only have they endangered the world, but they have, overlooked this group of beings that were being sold for whatever reason, whether it's for food or for, they're beings of energy that, can essentially feed entire cities.
Okay, or they're just hot and they're like
super hot aliens.
They're super hot and they're like great to have around.
They smell like cinnamon. They've got boobs all over their body. Male or female doesn't matter.
Does not matter. Some kind of like alien version of like a French maid costume on them and just have them like vacuum your house. But yeah, that suddenly he has gone from like really what's the word of like when you overlook or overstep, you're not overstep, but like you don't do the thing that you are charged, like he's charged with a certain responsibility by being an officer of alien affairs, and he really drops that ball.
Right. The word, I think there are a few. I'm going to try and conjure one right now. That is a failure to meet the.
What is that word?
It's a good word.
Oh, okay.
Um,
But yeah, for our TV audience at home, like maybe
maybe put it in the chat.
They're all
Pop it in the
shouting,
chat.
put it in the chat what the word is when you don't do the thing that is your responsibility. When you shirk your responsibility, and then there are consequences.
Right.
Anyway, yes. So that thing where he has to pick up the ball that he dropped and really carry it.
Exactly. It's they made an oath at one point to protect and serve, and
right. Yeah. So I feel like there's all sorts of potential in terms of your process. Like, let's say you're writing for TV, you're writing this. There's lots of stuff about the circumstances of this that are outrageous.
Right.
But like, how do you like infuse more funny? Like, what would be your process to like really zhuzh this up in terms of like?
So for me, a lot of that is the relationships. For instance, this android lover. I think that is probably one of the juiciest areas, and also it's really all about like extending those characters outward, finding out what is. There's more meat on those bones, so like an overconfident person does things overconfidently, and you find those moments when it seems ridiculous to do so, but that it brings them to the next step.
Okay, so there is like a really great possibility for, as he goes through this rescue operation or mounts this rescue operation, it could be a whole series of failing upwards, of just like swooping in to do the thing. It's a train wreck, but yet somehow like it leads to the next, like he's able to like Mario his way onto the next platform,
and then of course screws it up immediately by doing something else. So every victory leads to a defeat, which leads to another victory.
That's amazing. Do you ever see the movie of Get Smart with Steve
No,
Carell?
I never did. Is that
Honestly,
Steve Carell?
I thought it was hilarious. Maybe I may be alone in that I don't really hear that movie being touted as a comedy classic all that often.
Right.
But I was really like beside myself watching that. And I feel like that's a great example of somebody doing that thing of just being completely not competent, but
Jack Burton. This is one of my very, very favorite characters in any movie, is Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen
Kurt
that.
Russell is brilliant because he is that guy. He talks like this, and he's really overconfident. Everything he says is said with like, this is going to happen the way I say it's going to happen. And then he's put into a situation where, in fact, John Carpenter talks about it, he's the director, talks about it. And he said he wanted to explore a character that got everything wrong and is still the hero. So everything that Jack Burton does is a screw up. He is thrust into a world where he has no power at all and has to figure his way through it. So that's like a character I like to model a lot.
Okay. All right, great. I could see where that I've got to go now and get some viewing homework I've got to go do.
That is one worth viewing. It's one of the weirdest movies ever made, and I don't know, other than the fact that it was John Carpenter, like John Carpenter can get stuff made just because they are John Carpenter. But
yes.
Other than that, there's nobody on earth that could pitch this movie and have a studio go, yep, let's do it.
Especially now, right? Like was probably was that the late 80s that came out?
I think it was like 1984.
Okay. All right.
It's a very, very strange movie, but very funny, and it's a mostly Asian cast, which is really wonderful. Like you have all of these incredible Asian character actors that, they'd be ancillary characters in most things, but they're thrust front and center. And again, it's like the only two people in it that are any kind of white are Kurt Russell and Kim Cattrall as the love interest. Yeah.
All right.
but everybody else has these I had never seen a movie like it, and I think I've heard, and I can't speak for Asian Americans, but I have heard some of the actors that were in that movie saying that they jumped at the chance to actually like be a part of a more important story where Asian actors are put into the spotlight front and center with bigger roles.
Nice. Okay, I see. So someone in the chat asked us to just kind of, now that we've gotten there, to just what they wanted us to talk about what the prompts were, which should be here on the board.
Okay.
Right, where we had the Officer of Alien Affairs, who was an avid collector of some kind. They have an android lover who, as an android that is gone beyond their programming, they were raised by a stern father who taught them to like crush their rivals. And they were attending a posh auction where rare things and beings were being auctioned off and were for sale. And then we talked about how, even though he's an officer of alien affairs, he's so compelled to go to this auction and complete his collection that he's willing to turn a kind of blind eye to what he should have been really not okay with or tuned into about this event in the first place. So I think that this is, I love how the stakes kind of came together, like the arc of the character and where he begins and how he then kind of like fulfills himself, you know, like how he comes into himself over the course of this. Right. And I think that it's going to be really funny. There's a lot of opportunity for this to be hilarious as he does that thing. Absolutely.
Especially with characters like this have a bigness that can't be denied. You know, like when this is not a subtle character in my head, at least. I like the idea that, you know, they like being an officer of alien affairs, but they don't really understand the job. You know, it's they're centered because they can't be mentally forced out of that role. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do think that people that make big dumb decisions are the best characters for comedies.
That's like, I want to put that on a t-shirt. Like, I want that to be my mantra going forward now. So I think that we got where we're trying to get to. You know, the only other thing to do now would be to like go write it, you know, to go and like actually do the scenes. And
you have to give me at least half an hour.
we'll just wait. We'll wait. You know, like put the cats back on the video screen, and you know, check back with us when you're done.
Great. I will open the door again, but I can't promise I won't have to break away 4 or 5 times to save this cat's life.
No, I think we got there, and we got there in such a fun way. I think that. Do you feel like you want? Is there any stone unturned that you want to address before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think so. I think that like if I were given the time, I would really find some really fun things with this alien, the android lover, the alien old god. The reason that this person is driven to get this thing and is willing to overlook perhaps the seedier elements of this auction, but. You know, I love a character that has failed and finally succeeds, kind of despite themselves. You know, that even though they're the ones who brought this doom upon the galaxy, they're still able to fix it. With the help of some beings being sold at an auction.
Like you do. So thank you very much for being here.
Oh, absolutely.
This was so fun, and I hope you had a good time as well.
I would love to get pitches from the chat as to what they might title this.
Oh, okay. Does anyone in the chat want to try to come up with a name for this amazing story? They're also 20 seconds behind us. So
I see. Yeah, so we'll just wait.
Yes.
I'll write the first act.
While we do that, do you want to, for anyone who watches this or sees this, you want to tell people where to find you on social, or where can they
You
follow
can find me. I'm an old person, so you can find me on Facebook.
Okay, all right.
Don't friend request me because I will just say no. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I left long ago. And let's see, I have an Instagram account. It's mostly my cats. So the answer is you can Google me. And I would love it if you did that. I'm up there. There's some stuff, but I'm not much of a socials person these days. I can point you to the book Curses, which is on the Story Loom site. This is just a 10-chapter comedy that I wrote recently that I actually really like. It's like an interactive book, so you can make choices.
Oh, I love that. It's like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you say it was called?
It's on storyloom.com, and it's called Curses. CURSES exclamation point.
Oh, that's outstanding. Okay, great. All right, more homework.
And then I do have another book there that I really love. It just hasn't done as well because I don't think it met the promise of the title. If that makes any sense. It's called Up the Beehole, and it is about a man who essentially mourning the loss of his best friend, has the memorial at their favorite bar, and stumbling drunk falls into a portal to a different dimension and ends up trapped. So the bar is called the Glory Bee, and that's why it's Up the Beehole. But I think people were expecting something else. I don't know why.
Oh, cannot imagine.
But I am actually proud of that one too. So if the people have the patience, they can read that one.
Nice. All right, awesome. So we have some options here from the chat. We have The Rad Adventures of Mike Brindle in Space.
I like it.
And we have also Space Holes.
Space Holes.
And Glory and Galaxy. And also Love Bots.
I am going to go with Space Holes in keeping with my whole theme for the evening.
Yes,
Space Holes. I had a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun.
I'm really glad. Excellent. For anybody watching who's interested in this or this process, you can find out more about it at recklessdeck.com. And you can also follow Reckless Deck on Instagram, where I'm doing a lot of really fun things at Reckless Deck. So, Josh, thank you so much for being here. This was really fun. Hopefully you'll come back.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll try something completely different.
Absolutely.
All right, excellent.
I also like fantasy comedy.
We will do it. All right. Thanks again.